Hello. In this video, I'm going to paint a picture of Gilgamesh as he is setting out on his journey to find the secrets of immortality. In the saga, the epic poem of Gilgamesh, at this point in the story, he has lost his true friend, Ibani or Enkidu, and he is bereft by the fact that people die, really coming to this consciousness that his life is perhaps only going to last a certain amount of time. And so he goes on this journey into the West, originally from the city of Uruk, which is in Mesopotamia. He travels to the West and visits several individuals in the West who help him to understand his destiny and the destiny of humankind. So in this painting, I'm going to work with the rules of play. And the first rule that I'm going to use is the painting should begin with a contrast. And so I'm going to start with a contrast between red and blue. I'm going to use the carmine red and the ultramarine blue. And I also want to have rule number 7, which talks about the reality. Want to make sure that the painting has a sense of reality. So Gilgamesh is going to be walking across the paper. And because in the journey he goes to the west, I'm going to have him actually facing towards the left side of the paper. He is traveling from this sense of darkness and mourning, his unknowing about his destiny and the destiny of humankind, and he will be traveling into the light of knowledge and understanding. So I'm going to start with a gradation of blue that will go from dark blue to light blue. In the 5th grade, it's really great to have this opportunity where they have this whole expanse of the paper to create this gradation. So that's where we'll start. So as my brush begins to have less and less paint for me to have the fluidity that I want to thin the color and bring it all the way across, I'm going to add just a little bit of water. And it's really important that when you work with the students to have a little bit of water. They're not going to dip their brush all the way in, but we're going to just tap the tips of the brush in the water. So that brings a little bit more fluidity, but is not going to rinse all of the color out of the brush. So once I have all the color on the paper, now I'm going to make some modifications, some adjustments to the color so that this dark area comes more deeply into the picture. More darkness. And then gradually blend it out. Changing your brush stroke so that it blends nicely. And it doesn't have to be like a straight line going from top to bottom where the colors change. You can have some movement in those shapes. Like here it seems to be the darkest, and then here's sort of a medium color, and here's a lighter color. So I don't have to be so determined to make it rectilinear, you know, in bands of color. I can have perhaps some of the darker color come across in this way. So here we've created a beautiful blue atmosphere into which Gilgamesh will enter, and he needs to have a road to walk upon. And so I was thinking about that as an opportunity perhaps to bring in this image of the path of destiny, or connection between the earth and the heavenly realm. And we know that in the Greek myths that Olympus and the earth are connected by the rainbow bridge. So I liked that idea of perhaps including a rainbow in this image, but not to make it so much like, say, the rainbow that we would have in the Noah painting. But let's have a little bit of a rainbow here at the bottom as the path that he's walking on. So we have the blue here. Let's add a little yellow to make it green. So we'll start with yellow. I'm going to use a lemon yellow, just a touch of color, not too much. And the yellow in the ultramarine blue will not make the pure, gorgeous green that we like, but it will make a nice green. So we'll have a nice green. And then blue. Blue is the next, and then we'll have yellow, red to make purple. So leave a space for blue, because in some ways we even have a little yellow there, green, blue, purple. Red and blue make purple. And then I'm going to bring on my clean brush, I'm going to lift a little bit of color, not too much. And I'm not going to try to get any water on there. I want to make sure that my brush is super dry. I'm just going to lift a little bit of this blue to make room for the oranges and the yellows. Remember to dry your brush after every lifting, and the rag will then take the dampness out of your brush. Okay, so now let's have a little red. Again, just a touch on the end of the brush because we don't want to have too much. We're going to run carefully. It's a little too much. Run carefully along the edge of the purple. That looks nice. And then clean my brush, and then I'm going to bring a little bit of this vermilion, just a touch, not too much. It's okay if the different stripes are different thicknesses. There's like orange. And then the last is a little bit of lemon yellow. I'm going to run it right next to it. Too much, not too much. There's a road to enlightenment. Oh, that's nice. Darkness there. Mix up that green. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring just a little bit of the other blue to strengthen this part right there. Just a touch. And it will just bring a different quality to that stripe of blue. Make it more solid. There. That's so nice. His road into the west. All right, so Gilgamesh is going to be walking, and perhaps before we did the painting, I would have spent some time really thinking about the gesture of his step. So I made this gesture drawing of the human being walking, and we want to remember that when we walk boldly, that there's going to be this cross lateral swinging of the arms and the legs. So this arm, which is going to be his right arm, is on the far side of the body, and his left leg is going to be taking the step forward. So this is the quality of the gesture that we want to put here. So you might talk with the students before you do the painting about how the body walks, so that they get a feeling for drawing this correctly, so that they have a sense of reality, a real sense that this is a human gesture of walking. So I'm not going to take too much paint on my brush because the paper is now kind of drying, and I want to have a sense here that the figure is going to go here with the darkness behind and the lightness in front. And thinking about my drawing that I did, I want to take time to really get my figure standing upright, and then having this bold step into the future. Okay, so some adjustments to make as I go along, but that's my basic figure. And I want to overcome the sort of purple aspect of it and see if I bring a little bit more color, then I can get this strong red that I want to have for my quality of Gilgamesh, this courageous, bold gesture. Stepping out into my destiny. There. So I can see there's some bleeding going to happen here. So I'm going to just pick up a little bit of this extra. Make sure that it doesn't bleed too far. Now we have this sense that he's traveling with these memories, right? His experiences that he had with his friend Ibani, Enkidu. It's been known, carries both names depending on which translation you have. And so here's kind of where you can take it to a new level, where you have the contrast, but we want to enhance the contrast because these two colors are kind of in the same value. And if I were even to bring in a little bit more darkness here, I want to accentuate this side of the character. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a little bit of golden yellow as a symbol of the inspiration that he has from his friend Ibani, who's in the world beyond and who is helping him to know what he needs to do. So he becomes, in some ways, the inspirer of his action. Gonna add a little lemon yellow, brighten that up a little bit. That's nice. The combination of the two is really nice. Okay, and so that's gone really light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some blue here to just make it nice and dark here behind him. And then we really get a sense of him coming out of the darkness. Too much here, so I'm going to take this out. Don't want that to get in the way. There. So one of the rules is also to take any color that's in the foreground figure to bring it into the background. And so I'm just feeling a little bit of the tension between this figure who's standing alone and the background, which is very blue. But what would happen if I bring some of this red and golden color into the background? And I'm thinking that this inspiration that's happening with Ibani, Enkidu, that maybe we have just an angel-like figure or being that's standing behind him. So I want to bring, he's in another world, so maybe even just having him a little greenish here, bring a little bit of his sort of cosmic beingness here kind of shining over him. as an inspirer. Right. And then in the future, let's have kind of a little bit of a sunrising feeling, you know, what the sort of growing warmth of the sunrise. Too much. Have a little bit of the golden of the future. Now here, because my blue has dried because I've been working on it for so long, I can lightly brush this golden yellow over the blue, and they don't blend too much. I want to make sure that my brush is fairly dry, so I'm not kind of globbing on the paint, but I want to bring this golden glow into the future. Maybe even a little lemon yellow too. Sort of brightness into his future. That kind of a doorway that welcomes him into the next step, this next stage of understanding his new consciousness of the world, which he comes to. You know, he understands that he will die, but humanity will live on. So he becomes inspired to create this incredible city, create a social culture where humanity can continue to live and grow. So there's my image of Gilgamesh on his journey to find the secret of immortality.